Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Reaction Time, where I'm here recording with two fans of loser-ass teams who got 3-0'd in their playoff series,
How
who
could this have
talked a lot of
happened?
shit and got wrecked. Because evil fucking geniuses are the champions of the LCS and are going MSI. Bitches.
They sure did it, didn't they?
So we're gonna start off with a fact. Eric, I'll ask you. Eric, what LCS support has won the most split titles?
I think it's Vulcan. Isn't
It's
it Vulcan?
Vulcan.
Yeah.
Vulcan with 3 beats out Core with 2.
From McDonald's drive-through worker to best
Yeah.
support.
And like Lemon's like pre this mattering, isn't he? Probably.
Yeah, I would have meant active. I didn't look it up. Yeah.
Yeah. Out of active, yeah, definitely.
Interesting how Core the God narrative works. Very interesting.
That's brutal.
So, Steven,
That's
I asked you
major.
many times. We'll start with the semifinals. I asked you many times over the course of these playoffs if you were scared. You scared now?
Never, no. Absolute fluke. I actually think that just because of Reddit, we need to actually redo that series just to make sure that it was actually like a legitimate game, because there's just...
Man, imagine throwing a 2v5 at Baron and being salty about it being rigged. Wow.
Oh my god.
Wow. I'm so sad I wasn't in voice for that, by the way.
Oh man, I it happened, and I said, I swear to God, if David comes in here and says a goddamn word, I'm deleting the Discord, and you just immediately
rolled
popped
right on in there.
Oh my god.
So like let's start there. So EG clearly came into this weekend with a plan. And that plan was pick Jinx Tom Kench.
Yes.
And they were allowed to do that a couple of times here.
Yes. And sometimes Ornn.
And sometimes Ornn. Yeah, they only got one Ornn game in the TL series.
Yeah.
But you get game 2 of the series after you lose to the Jinx, winning you a team fight in one of the nuttiest plays LCS has ever seen. And then you also give them the Ornn. Yep. And then you get the spicy Diana Yasuo combo.
Yep.
Glad to see JoJo's Yasuo in playoffs.
Brutal.
And then they play Ezreal, and you get clapped in 28 minutes against an Ezreal comp in spring 2022.
Imagine.
Roll out them excuses, sir.
Bring
them out.
I think the legitimate... I think we saw the super team implosion. Like, they were just so tilted off of that throw at Baron that it never really came back together. They had some, like, bright moments, but the way that EG fights with... I feel like it was always, like, the front end of the fight kind of looked a little scuffed, but they would not kill, like, JoJo or Danny or someone just wouldn't quite die, and then they would just start retreating and then just get picked off as they just get like gunned down, and it just happened over and over again. And that even happened in the later series too. So I'm just they have a clear like internal communications like prestige. I just it was fascinating to just watch no one be able to crack that.
Well, and like if we want to go narrative level thing, what top laner do you trust in the clutch in the playoffs, Whip or Impact?
Impact. We used
Whip
to do that.
Almost most deaths on the team in the series, and we're not even going to talk about Impact yet. I'm saving that for the next set.
You solo won a game, so you better.
So, Eric, what were your thoughts on this series as a neutral party to this?
It really looked like TL fell apart at like roughly 15 to 16 minutes. Their prioritization for like their neutral prio was like flipped of what it should have been in these games. It felt like where like they would go for Herald when they're like the early game comp and they should be focusing dragons to try and build a dragon lead, and they're going for dragons when they should be going for heralds. Which is like one of the things that was somewhat off. And then like I don't want to like get into like the nitty gritty of the team fight, but it definitely felt like their approach to fights was really bad unless EG gave them the aid of like there was the one Diana flank where Bjergsen immediately sees Inspired on this like lone solo mission, and they peel it off and split up the fight, and it makes it almost look good because they're able to do that. But then they botch the rest of it horrendously, miss every skill shot on Danny, and then it doesn't matter anyway. But like it was really clear that they just like, unless you gave them like a super obvious target, they didn't know how to approach these like fights over neutrals.
And like theoretically, the target prioritization would be pretty easy. It's kill the fucking Jinx, right? Like,
and they were doing it until they just tilted, and then they just
were they
in the first game, yeah.
Were they 26-3-11 in the series? Were they?
Yeah. Yeah,
after the Baron fight that he just repeatedly killed, like 10 of those kills came after.
So what you're saying is the Jinx game, the game 1, he had 2 of his 3 deaths in the set.
Mm-hmm.
So questioning your interpretation of actually focusing the Jinx out.
The other thing that's awkward with it is like they drafted these comps which should have been better at it too, where it's like Shen delivery system, or like the Twisted Fate, or these other like engaged champions who should be able to like apply CC even after escape from Tom Kench, especially with the super low damage output of the rest of the EG comp in game 1. And then they just didn't do it. Like
well, yeah, like this TL comp game 2, which was the closest game of it. TL gets 5 Drakes, gets Elder in this game, and still loses. GP, Jarvan, TF, Ashe, Zyra. If any one of those hits CC, you should get a kill on a priority target. They killed Danny once.
They were just getting caught out that whole time, and they just like, I think it was like Hans was like caught out like twice in like split pushing as Ashe, like very by himself. And I mean, Bjergsen's probably never going to be that kind of player, but like there was no proactive TF. Also, is always follow up, and same with the Shen. I think they even mentioned it on cast. Like these characters look the best or perform the best when you're dictating the pace of the game, and you're dictating when you're ulting and getting the most bang for buck. I think they did it once with like Scuba Shen, just like one time, and that was it.
Super reactive ultimates, and then they also had some mechanical misplays the few times they did press the go button. Like Whippo missed taunt flash on Shen a few times, and they had some other awkward moments, but yeah.
And then game 3, like well, okay, let's talk interesting picks before I go too deep more. What did you think of the Zyra pick, even in the loss? Either of you guys.
So
they didn't win hard enough.
Well, yeah, they should have won lane more. The simple answer, especially with the Twisted Fate. Like they should have been 5 people in bot lane starting at minute 8 of that game, especially after they already blew Vulcan summoners earlier in that lane phase. They should have just been bot lane the entire game as 5. Just like not let Danny get CS, period. And they really didn't do that. Like Bjergsen was actually Bjergsen was focused on. Bjergsen was unwilling to sacrifice waves in mid, is how I'd actually phrase it. So then he needed Santorin to help him shove wave because he can't actually beat Rise and straight up push. And then
that was the Yasuo game.
That was the Yasuo game. I apologize.
Which he definitely can't.
Yeah. And like even against the Yasuo, he can't really win on push. And so then he like didn't leave lane that much. He got kind of locked there. And the few times he did roam, like were on very obvious timings, where they couldn't actually achieve anything. So like that's one of the things that like if you look at the LPL mid laners who play Galio or TF, you give up a wave. You let a wave die to your turret to like actually force this in. And that's not a TSM playstyle, I hate to say.
He said the dirty word.
That's yucky. Not the doo-doo feces.
I'd also like to note, we talked last week about how EG just kind of ignored dragons in last weekend's set. They took one each game in the first two of this set, and then only took them because they were stopping game 3, I think. So it almost feels like it's a team strategy to deal with other stuff and avoid dragons until it matters for Soul.
Especially when they're specifically drafting these team fight comps where they have like the Jinx, they have the TK, they have the Ornn, they have the like either the Rise or some other jungle nonsense combo. Like so like it's very clear that they acknowledge that like that's not a priority if they outscale as horrendously as they do in some of these games.
Yeah, the Ashe Zyra, I was interested to see it come out because that's like a classic bot lane from many moons ago.
Yeah, season 5 or something.
But it's also like I talked about how I like TL's team comp in that situation, which again, GP, Jarvan, TF, Ashe Zyra. The problem is, if any of those 5 get hit by Diana Yasuo, they're dead because they're all squishy.
I hate to point to, because I felt like in the moments they were drafting fairly well. They seemed to have some semblance of a plan, and they were trying to like knock out what at least the top side of the map was winning with. But they just got outplayed. Like this just really looked like a skill diff to me, and it was baffling. TL didn't look on form, not because they were like just like, oh yeah, they're just like, choked. It was just like they were not maneuvering well. They were not moving
Santorin got gapped.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it.
Yeah, and he shouldn't have. That's probably, if anyone to point to that was not playing on like previous like forum, he was not. And it felt like TSM Santorin, and it felt like TSM Bjergsen. Like it really did. It was really gross.
To flip the narrative on the jungle, Inspired is in the best form he's been in all year long.
Yep.
He has not been playing up to the caliber he was playing at in EU. Previously, we've acknowledged that on this show several times. And he showed up to his absolute best all the way through these playoffs, and I think that's almost a big reason why EG is where they are, is because you get this player who either was up for or won EU MVP, LEC MVP last year, like deservedly, and who played in the best form he has, like the Diane. He was up 120 CS on Santorin in game 2.
It was insane.
Like, shit like that, was getting the smites when he needed to get the smites. Like,
yeah, he played really well. And like how he played around the lanes on this on the map was very good. Particularly, it did feel like their whole strategy for how they approach these games like definitely enabled him to play into his more comfortable style as well. With it's okay that bot lane is slightly losing because they outscale and the enemy teams aren't punishing by going like for the full-on turret dive. So he's able to actually farm his jungle and then like pressure the map through the map. And then he and JoJo played together very well in games with how this worked out. So the mid jungle synergy really stepped up in both these sets. And so like that to me was a huge deal with how these games played out.
Anyway, to pivot, since we've already started talking about that, Eric, I never asked you if you were scared. Were you scared?
Going into the final? No. But I probably should have been. I think that they played scared too, so that also contributes to this because some of these pick bans in the final especially looked like they have been scrimming a lot, if that makes sense. And some nonsense started happening, like them early locking Trundle and Jungle Graves for closer, late locking Graves, but closer's picks in this series imply to me that something funky was happening.
I speaking of the pick ban, things I thought were hilarious from this series' pick ban. We went long on the Zeri getting allowed through last week. EG chooses to allow Zeri through in Game 3 of this set, wins it. LeBlanc was allowed through in 4 total games in the LCS playoffs and was banned the 22 other times, and was 3-0 going into Game 2 of this series, where it lost. So, like, because that's been a pretty consistent thing, is LeBlanc has just been banned this whole time by every team on one side or another. So the fact that they not only let LeBlanc through, but clearly had enough of a plan for how to deal with it, I found that very interesting, because that's a drafting twist that we hadn't really seen, is let LeBlanc through and do something right against it. But also, 100 Thieves gave up Jinx, Tahm Kench, Ornn in Game 1 of this series after watching the previous series.
That was ballsy. That was
very Reaper thing. I was calling this out in like live.
Eric and I talked about this live, yes.
Yeah. It's like, this is what Reaper does. He's like, give them all their comfort picks Game 1, and then we'll pick our counter strategy against all of their comfort picks. And if it works, great. And then we make them pivot. And if it doesn't work, I mean, you know, it's not like we showed anything. And you can understand how they assembled this comp and how it's supposed to work, where they have the jungle trundle to like steal all of the Ornn stats and try and like get a game rolling that way. And then they have they had Twisted Fate that game, yeah?
Yep.
And then they have like a Felios in bot lane, and then they had Renata for like the counter engage. And so the plan is you Twisted Fate ult bot lane after you're winning bot lane, and you hard snowball an advantage.
And then you get to the point where you're winning bot lane because you got first blood in bot lane at 5 minutes.
And then they didn't do anything with it. Like and a part of it, I do want to give a huge credit to EG though, where like they're still doing the thing they did last split with Danny, where they let Danny get solo side lane golden experience by like shadowing him with other carries, and that should be where like that should be a thing that 100 Thieves comp is meant to punish, where like the Twisted Fate ults in on top of the Jinx that's all alone, or maybe has like a Tahm Kench shadowing, and then they kill it. But it didn't work out that way, partially because of 100 Thieves rotations, but partially because they couldn't leave FBI alone in mid, which should be a safe lane when you think about it, right? Like, here's an Aphelios with Gale Force. He should be able to sit at his turret in mid lane and live. However, when they tried to do that, Impact would just Ornn ult him at the turret, and then he'd get like Jarvan ulted underneath the turret and die.
Or he'd have to blow flash,
so they couldn't leave him alone there, which meant that then all of a sudden they don't have enough people to actually shift the map into these side lanes to exert pressure, even though they have these champions that are designed to do that. Like, they would have had to have seeded mid lane push on that outer turret at a level that they seemed uncomfortable or unwilling to do. And they completely lost control of vision in their own jungle.
And EG clearly knows how to play to this style too. The number that pops to this screen for me is over the course of these 3 games, which obviously were all pretty strongly EG favored, but in which Danny died early in at least 2 of the 3 games, if not all 3. Danny had 10.7 CS per minute through the 3 games, which is a lot. That's a lot. So that is a very statistically significant amount.
And it's completely because they've figured out this strategy with the Rise and with the Ornn and with Inspired in the jungle, where they don't need to rotate their AD carry to mid lane after lane phase ends. They instead keep him in the side lane, which they lost somehow, and let him like absorb wave after wave of CS and turret plates or turret gold. And that's just incredible that it keeps working for them this well. I'm really curious to see if they're able to achieve that against better teams.
Yeah, because I feel like they were never pushed outside of what they were comfortable dictating in a game. Even with some picker ban pivots, they weren't. the style always felt the same. The game plan more or less felt the same. Maybe slightly different components. So I'm just curious when it comes to MSI or when it comes to even the next split, is this just like a winning formula of like the perfect like early Cloud9, like these boys just know how to play League of Legends together and they're just gonna have their look and look really good until like Riot themselves interferes with patches. But I never felt like they were getting pushed outside of like, okay, we have to change our game style, or we even have to pivot mid game to do something different. They just ran the course every time, it felt like to me.
What did you think of the Mordekaiser pick, Steven?
It's not a fun pick on the Ornn side, so I see why it was picked. I made the hee that wasn't recepted in the Discord when you're like Jizuke and Yamato were like watching the game with Dominate. It was like, oh, the Mord in the LEC finals. Obviously didn't look like that. But I forgot, what did they pick the Mord into in that LEC file?
It was like, it wasn't, I don't think it was the finals. It was like earlier on, wasn't it?
No, I thought it was the last game. Oh, no, you know what? You're right. It was the semifinals, wasn't it?
It was earlier.
Yeah. It wasn't into the Ornn, though. But, like, Mord into Ornn is
it was
really
like a
good.
blind Mordekaiser.
Yeah.
And so it's really good into the Ornn. The other big thing is that, like, he would ult Huhi or ult the support in all these fights, and Huhi's whole job is to supply CC onto Danny in these fights. So all of a sudden you don't have your support supplying CC onto Danny, and then the fights looked really really awkward, because like that was the LeBlanc game too, right?
Yep.
Where theoretically Abadage is supposed to be able to pick off someone who's squishy. There is only one squishy champion on the EG team comp in this game, and it's Danny, who is standing next to like, you know, a support and like a tank rise the entire time. So good luck getting in on LeBlanc to try and assassinate this AD carry through that while you're eating like AoE Mordekaiser burn damage and whatever other nonsense is happening.
Well, and it was like, it really didn't seem like it was going to be that effective, and then he just kind of 1v3s one side of the fight by Dragon at like 12 or 13 minutes.
That is Mordekaiser.
Just like, oh, well, okay, this is just kind of over now.
A part of it seemed like 100 Thieves, you know, was completely baffled by how to team fight against this. Because, like, you know, they're fighting him in this choke point, you know? They're fighting Mordekaiser in a choke point.
Probably shouldn't do that.
Yeah, and then, like, and they were, not only were they fighting him in the choke point, but they were letting him hit isolated Qs, too, which is, like...
big damage.
Like, everything he wants. Everything. And it was very brutal. And then, like, in the meantime, they couldn't get through the Mordekaiser because he got ulted. So then, surprise, surprise, Danny's free-firing with no threat. Or like, and for Abadage to get there to get on threat, he has to like go through like Rise machine gun damage and like all the AoE burn to try and get in range. And so he did, and then he had to like immediately leave, and then was like next to the Mordekaiser on his way out. So
with full shield and passive up because he's been beaten on the support in the Shadow Realm for a minute.
Yeah.
So then you go to game 3 after losing that in 23 minutes. You get Zeri, which is good. What did you guys think of Danny pivoting to crit Zion, which we haven't seen like at all in these playoffs?
It looked fine, but it's more to his style because it has that late game incentive or like insurance policy.
It was very effective against their strat, especially because even with the Zeri, like Huhi was like yet again the sole source of engage on their team in that game.
Reliable engage anyway, right? Because you have the stun from Viego, you have knock-up from Aatrox if he can get in there, and you have the Vex Fear, which kind of worked a couple times, but nothing that's just Leona hit E and go in.
Yeah.
It's hard to get past frontline with those characters.
Yeah. And so like they had a hard time getting past frontline with those characters. Like Like there's the fight by Baron where like Someday has to like just walk at them on Aatrox and just gets absolutely torn to shreds because he's walking at a Zaya. And like it has to like blow stopwatch and turn golden without doing anything.
Well, and then in the same fight, Abba tries to go in and get a fear on the back line and just gets popped in half a second by Victor damage. Just like QE gone.
Yeah.
That was another. Are we talking about the one that was up by Harrow?
It was the one I'm talking about. The one by Baron.
Yeah.
After EG took Baron.
Yeah. There's a lot of fighting around Baron Pit, which is extra triggering. I have PTSD.
Yeah. Like none of EG's opponents knew how to play around side lanes or exert side lane pressure, which definitely helps in this. Because like so that'll be another good thing for EG going into MSI is they'll get to play against teams who actually know how to exert pressure in more than one place on the map.
So then the verdict was the regular season a lie? Because EG didn't just win playoffs. They 3-0'd each of the top 3 teams above them in playoffs.
No, I think it took them this entire time to get to where they are. I think it was up the mountain, and I don't want to say they peaked because I would like them to even be better in MSI, but I don't think they had this form in the regular series in the regular season. So I think calling it a lie would be inaccurate.
Especially because like while they did like have a really good strategy in playoffs and worked it out, the fact that like it was their strategy means that they could have just been executing the same strategy all of the regular split, you know? Like this wasn't like they were really good at counter picking or counter strategies in a best of 5. This was their main execution strat worked consistently. So I don't know. I have a hard time. Like, I think they're a bit of a lie. It's really hard to tell though when Cloud9 like had as epic of a collapse as they did. I'll side with the lie because TL didn't look like they knew what they were doing, and C9 completely combusted. So yes, the regular season of LCS was a complete.
Because like going into the playoffs, TL and C9 were the comfortable top 2, and like I said, I expected TL to walk the playoffs, which I did, and then they didn't, and looked kind of garbage the whole time.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're gonna say that, like, is it just internal team problems that are the cause? That these teams like held it together for whatever reason, or like something changed?
I'm saying it. I'm going to agree with you. I think it's EG skill development and roster cohesion that they've clearly gelled together better than any of these other teams. Like it's the anti Cloud9, right? Like Cloud9 clearly looked like a broken team by the end of their journey through playoffs for one reason or another, in game, out of game, whatever have you. Where EG just like completely got it together. I talked before about Inspired's form. Like that's the clearest indicator for me is that maybe Inspired didn't necessarily individually play that much better, but he knew how to play with his team. The mid jungle synergy was there. The jungle support synergy with warding was there. Like it's they figured out how to play together better than any of the other teams. So I would give credit to EG rather than shitting on everybody else too much, but there's a little bit of paper tiger syndrome among particularly TL and C9 based on what we saw in the regular season. Because like 100 Thieves also looked comfortably better than the top 2 in the regular season from what we saw.
And I think this is something that at least I've experienced with TL is like they look really, really good. And then they get in these best of 5 situations and they get found out or like they get scouted enough or whatever and they just fall apart. And it reminds me of when FlyQuest beat us out in the finals. I think it was spring of 2020, may have been summer.
And Santorin Power of Evil team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just like, how does this keep happening?
Well, and EG has said from the jump that this roster is built for best of 5s. Like, from the get-go. This is what we're here for. We're going to look better in best of fives, and they walked up and proved it.
Yeah, I just want to see them get out of like a groups round robin and then back into an international best of five situation, because I think that would be the best litmus test.
They've got a great group for that.
So, I also want to acknowledge the fact that JoJo Pune talks the most shit of anyone I've ever seen, and I deeply appreciate it.
Amazing.
Particularly because, to this point, he's backed every single word of it up, including my favorite one. So as we scroll through JoJo's Twitter account, he tweeted, "Sweeping Team Liquid today." Did that. Sending Bjerg back to coaching next week. We'll see. Sending Abadagi back to Europe today. We'll see. Then we've got JK, I'm not Chovy, I actually want to split.
Oof.
Which, like, doesn't feel necessary, but fair enough. and then there's my favorite one, which is sending Fudge back to top lane next week, which reports are saying he might have just done.
So, are they saying that Summit's out, or is he being traded?
It is heavily indicated that they are going to try and trade Summit out of that team.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Bark.
So, great success.
Great success. Yeah, I love the trash talk. I was actually talking to my dad about it because when I was watching the NCAA tournament, they would do the interviews with the coaches like in the middle of the game, and they're just so like cordial. Like, yeah, the other team's doing really good. We got to get it together, and like everybody out there is doing great, and it's just like really like PC and very nice. And then like I'm used to like League is like, yeah, those guys are kind of ass. They really shouldn't have been here. Like, damn, like I wish they were better players. It's just like the whiplash, like going from that conversation right into the finals is like, yes, I like this a lot.
So as a fan of the NBA, I've seen a lot of trash talking in the first round of the NBA playoffs, and unfortunately some of it has gone really badly for the team that I cheer for. So it can go badly for you.
I guess college sports is just a different animal. Like, these are just kids, man. Like, why you gotta be mean? But
so EG gets to go to MSI. We get. I miss just a little bit that it's not the old G2 roster that's here, because the back and forth with having EG and old G2 in the same group for MSI would be
memes.
Just I miss Wonder just for that. But you have G2, EG, and I already forgot who the LCO representative is. We'll talk about MSI more next time. I'm not stressed about it right now. But there you have it. My team is better than these boys.
Apparently.
Easy. 3-0. Easy.
Straight 3-0s.
Straight 3-0s. Easy.
Next split's going to be worse, too, because now they're the team that's getting to go to Korea here. That's going to get this good experience against actual teams that know how to play champions like Xayah and Vex and Ari. And then they're going to come back. So,
and I think some of these other teams are getting at least one or two players knocked around. Like I have a feeling there's just like some mid-split or mid-season shuffling around, and I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Because if they maintain this cohesion and they're not at their ceiling and they just keep powering up, like that's a spooky team.
Well, and this is the problem though, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't seem like any of the top three in NA is likely to change roster, right? EG definitely not. TL, I doubt it. 100 Thieves, I doubt it. They've stuck to their guns. I don't think they're going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Below that, chaos. Total chaos.
Yeah, exactly. And so are they just going to walk through everybody again, maybe get challenged a little bit by these upper teams, and then come summer just clap cheeks? Probably. Like, honestly, unless I see some significant changes from 100 Thieves and TL as far as just like performance, not necessarily changes in rosters, but like they got to like start showing up, like, I don't know, not dropping weird games or just like really winning hard and looking good, winning with a strategy. Because these, I don't know, man. This is a spooky team. It really is. And I don't like to admit it.
Interesting offseason.
Yeah.
We'll see if the light rumors of Dig Summit are what is going to happen.
Oh man.
Because boy, what a thing! Dig announced that Fake God's out, so that's where he's going. Definitely.
Oh man, that's suddenly a much better team.
Funny how that works.
Interesting. I wonder what's going on in C9's like world, because it feels like there's just a lot of player staff not.
So the big stuff that's been indicated through various sources is that LS left largely because of there was a difference of opinion between LS and mainly Jack about a certain Cloud9 fundamental out of game lifestyle things. And so then and odds are I have a feeling that Jack is not fond with some of Summit's attitude that's going on too. And so because Jack really loves team players who practice a lot and are willing to bend for the team like Fudge, Fudge is exactly like the players who Jack promotes to the starting roster mid-split randomly, just when he moved up Golden Glue, or when he pulled in Blabber, or when they bench Sneaky, all these things, this is all Jack. And so this sounds like a Jack thing. And I would not be surprised if any roster moves that are happening is because now he's more going back into taking direct GM-ishness over this team and making sure it's in his style,
his image.
Yeah. Get rid of when LS tried to build this roster, LS might view some of these same, because of his more Korean mindset, might have viewed some of these same terms it just according to different cultural value. And that can be a big difference than when all of a sudden Jack is trying to expect everyone to follow very specific lifestyle patterns.
So there you have it. NA is done. We slapped him. Get ready for EG Championship merch to be on one of the next couple episodes of this podcast.
Nice.
I must flex.
Absolutely.
But just in case you need merch to feel better about old times when your team won the title,
go to go get your nostalgia merch at FNKY.store. You can go there. You can get stuff.
Just in case you need to look up at the banners that are already hanging up in the LCS arena and think back on the better times.
Yeah. Several years ago. Go back to the better times.
Go back a few months though. I only want to go forward at this point. That's
right.
FNKY.store. Go check that out.
Past is dead.
Never again.
Anyway, what else we got on the Funky channel?
We secretly have finished the Star Fox playthrough, so those episodes will be dropping soon. So get caught up. I think episode 7 just dropped today when we were recording, so catch up because we completed another game on the channel, Hyphy. We also played some Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and it's a decent game, a good beat 'em up. And I have to re-get to Pokemon Master again, which isn't fun because I don't like the new changes in Pokemon Unite. So
they nerfed your main.
Oh my god, my boy!
Baby.
What if my boy? That's my boy. Just dead.
I read those patch notes. Talonflame got nerfed.
Oh man,
Rip
actually nerfed. The buddy barrier changes and the score shield changes completely took away the way I played the game. No matter my character, I was that was my I was go getter, score shield, buddy barrier. I'm gonna get 300 points a game. Absolutely cracked at Unite my guy. And then they're no, you won't be doing that anymore. I was no. So yeah, check that all out.
There you go. Eric, what you been playing? You finished Tiny Tina's. Have you been playing any video games?
I finished Tiny Tina's, and then And not really, I guess. I started playing Rift again. Played a couple games of Rift. Yeah, remembering how that works. There's no cannon. I don't know what to do without a cannon, but you know.
Play Tristana. Bring your own cannon.
Oh, that's a good plan. Yeah, I can do that instead.
Valid.
Yeah, had a couple of wins on Misfortune, and then we stopped so that leave the win streak alive.
There you have it, Steven. You been playing anything else?
Nope. I'm about to pick up Pokemon Arceus. I finally got to the 6th star, so I can get Ultra Balls, so I can finish the game. Because being near the post game with only 5 stars was getting a little rough on actually catching anything of any fun. So.
Man, imagine not grinding before you finish the story. Can't relate to that at all. Weird.
I just unlocked, like, when I stopped playing that, I just unlocked Sneasler, and I already had like the whatever the Wing Ball Ultra Ball variant was, So.
Yeah, Wing Ball. Oh,
Jet
Jet
Ball?
Ball. I don't even know what that. I don't have that. I don't even know what that is. Yeah. I just unlocked Wing Balls.
Meanwhile, I'm sitting here like, if I am homesick from work again tomorrow, I will do some work around the house and then maybe start hunting Unons. And Spiritomb lights, because those are the only 2 things preventing me from complete decks. So, yep, the most annoying parts of the game. So there you go. All right, it's been good. This has been reaction time. We'll catch you next time. EG are the champions. These bitches aren't. Deuces.
Death.
#live evil.
Banger episode.